The sun was a merciless flame over the western plains, baking the land into cracked earth and shimmering mirages. His throat burned, his hat hung low, and his revolver gleamed faintly in the light, one of the few things left that hadn't been dulled by the desert's cruelty. He'd been searching for her for 3 days. Clara Weston, the only woman who had ever managed to break through the iron walls around his heart. When he finally spotted movement near the dunes, he thought the heat had driven him to see ghosts. But the figure crawling in the distance was real. Clara's dress, once white, was now stained with blood and dust. Her hands trembled as she tried to push herself up. 3 crimson feathered arrows jutted from her back, their shafts glinting under the sun like cruel trophies. "Clara!" Daniel's voice cracked through the dry air. He dropped to his knees beside her, his hands trembling as they hovered above her wounds. The smell of blood mixed with sand hit him hard. "Daniel," she whispered, her lips cracked and pale. "Please, don't pull it." Her voice was barely a breath, but it froze him to his core. He looked into her eyes, wide with pain and fear. "You'll die if I leave them," he said, trying to sound steady though his heart pounded like thunder. She shook her head weakly. "No, it's not what you think. Don't pull it." The words didn't make sense, but then again, nothing had since the attack. Daniel scanned the horizon, his gut tightening. Someone or something was still out there. He reached for his canteen and poured a trickle of water over her lips. "Save your strength," he said. But Clara's trembling hand caught his wrist. "Promise me," she gasped, "you'll do exactly what I say, no matter what happens." Daniel hesitated. "Clara, promise me," she cried, her voice breaking. He nodded, though confusion clouded his thoughts. As her breathing slowed, her eyes flicked toward the distance. Daniel followed her gaze and saw something glinting near a ridge, a shadowy movement just beyond the shimmer of heat. His instincts screamed danger. He gripped his revolver, the sound of the hammer cocking sharp and final. The desert had gone silent now. Even the wind seemed to hold its breath. Clara's hand trembled as she pointed weakly toward his belt. "There's something you don't know," she whispered, "about the arrows." Before Daniel could ask what she meant, a low, haunting whistle cut through the era signal. Not human, but close enough to chill him to the bone. Softer this time, as if the desert itself were mocking him. He scanned the horizon, nothing but heat waves and dust. Yet the silence felt alive, breathing against the back of his neck. Clara stirred, her voice trembling. "They're watching us," she whispered. "They don't want you to touch the arrows." "Who's watching?" Daniel demanded, his eyes darting from dune to dune. The empty land gave no answer. Her lips quivered. "Not who, what?" Daniel swallowed hard. He'd heard stories, whispered, in saloons and campfires, about the Red Plains and the old tribes who once cursed this land. But superstition wasn't going to stop him now. He tore a strip from his sleeve, pressing it to her bleeding shoulder. "Clara, I can't leave these in you. They're poison-tipped. You'll die." "No," she screamed suddenly, her whole body shaking. "If you pull even one, you'll see them. They'll come for you too." Her words struck him like a hammer, but desperation drowned out fear. He couldn't watch her fade away. "I'm sorry, Clara," he said through clenched teeth. "I can't just stand here." He reached for the first arrow. Her eyes widened with pure terror. "Daniel, please, don't pull it." But he did. The instant the arrow left her flesh, the air seemed to shatter. A blast of wind roared across the desert, carrying with it a sound like distant chanting. The sunlight dimmed for a heartbeat, and the ground beneath them quivered. Daniel stumbled back, gripping his gun. Clara gasped, her face pale as death. "You shouldn't have done that." He turned toward the horizon and froze. Dark figures stood at the edge of the ridge, silhouettes rippling like smoke. They didn't move like men. They flickered, fading in and out as if made of dust and shadow. Daniel blinked, heart hammering. When he looked again, the ridge was empty. Only the wind remained. "What the hell?" he muttered. Clara's breathing grew shallow. "It's begun," she whispered. "They marked me. Now they'll mark you." Daniel dropped to his knees beside her, gripping her shoulders. "Clara, listen to me. Who are they? What do they want?" But she didn't answer. Her eyes rolled back, her body trembling violently. The remaining arrows in her back pulsed faintly. the red feathers darkening, as if drinking in the blood and heat around them. Then silence again. Daniel stared, unable to move. His hands were shaking. When he looked down, his palms were smeared with blood. But it wasn't Clara's. The crimson on his skin was darker, thicker, almost black, and it was still warm. The chill that crawled down his spine was worse than any fear he'd known. For the first time, the desert didn't feel empty anymore. It felt like it was breathing, watching. He turned toward the horizon again, gripping his revolver tight, his voice a whisper against the rising wind. What did I just bring upon us? The desert wind carried a strange hum now, low and rhythmic, as if the earth itself were chanting. Daniel's breath came in short bursts. He stared at his blood-stained hands, the thick, dark fluid glistening like oil beneath the dying sun. The color wasn't right, too deep, too cold. He rubbed it off in the sand, but it clung to his skin as if alive. "Clara," he whispered, shaking her shoulder. Her eyes fluttered open, unfocused. "Stay with me." She tried to speak, but only a rasp escaped her lips. The sand around her began to darken, small ripples spreading outward like water disturbed by a stone. Daniel stumbled back, eyes wide. The air had grown heavy, pressing against his chest. "Clara, what's happening?" Her gaze drifted toward the remaining arrows in her back. "They're not arrows," she breathed. "They're bindings." Daniel froze. "Bindings of what?" "The ones who were here before us. They trapped something beneath this land. Those arrows keep it sealed. You broke one." Her words hit him harder than a bullet. The chanting grew louder, the air shimmering with heat that wasn't from the sun. Daniel turned toward the ridge and saw them again. The shadowed figures, closer this time. 6, maybe 7. Their forms twisted with every blink, like smoke caught in a storm. His instinct screamed to run, but he couldn't leave her. He grabbed her hand. "We can still make it to the horses. Hold on." But Clara didn't move. Her eyes had gone glassy, her lips trembling. "You can't run from what's underneath you," she whispered. "It's already awake." A deep rumble shook the ground. Daniel fell to one knee, gripping her tight. "I'll fix this, Clara. I swear I will." He reached for the second arrow. Maybe if he pulled them all, she could be freed of the curse, freed of pain. He didn't understand magic or demons, he only knew love and desperation. "Don't," Clara pleaded weakly. "Please, Daniel. You'll only make it stronger." But he couldn't listen, not this time. He pulled the second arrow. The ground split open. Daniel was thrown backward, the force knocking the wind out of him. Daniel crawled toward her, shouting her name. But before he could reach her, something unseen struck him hard, sending him sprawling. A whisper slid past his ear. When he looked up again, the last arrow was gone, and Clara was no longer the same woman he loved. The storm of sand and light finally stilled. He blinked through the haze, his heart slamming against his ribs. Clara stood several feet away, or what used to be Clara. Her dress hung in tatters, fluttering in a wind that didn't exist. The wounds on her back had closed, but in their place were markings, black, jagged symbols that pulsed faintly like dying embers. Her hair floated weightlessly, her skin pale and cold as marble. When she turned to face him, "Clara," Daniel whispered. What happened to you?" Her lips parted, but the voice that came out wasn't hers. It was layered, deep, echoing, ancient. "You freed me." He staggered backward. "Freed you? From what?" She stepped closer, each footfall soundless on the sand. "From the prison your kind built long ago. The ones who struck the deal, then buried their guilt beneath the arrows." Daniel shook his head, gripping his revolver, though he knew it wouldn't matter. "You're not making sense." Her smile was slow and terrible. "Your bullets can't touch what's older than sin." The air around her shimmered again, distorting. He saw flashes, men in animal hides, fires burning under a blood-red moon, chants calling something from beneath the earth. Then the arrows, driven into flesh, sealing the horror away. He stumbled, clutching his head. "Stop it," he shouted. The vision snapped away, leaving silence. Clara, or the thing inside her, tilted her head. "You should have listened when she begged." Tears stung his eyes. "Clara, if you're still in there, fight it, please." For a moment, her expression flickered. The darkness in her gaze wavered, revealing a glimmer of the woman he loved. "Daniel, run," she whispered. Then she screamed, a sound so sharp it split the night. The ground trembled again. Black cracks snaked through the sand, glowing faintly from within. Behind him, the air grew hot and thick, and a shape began to rise from the fissures, massive, formless, and writhing like liquid shadow. He reached his mare, barely swinging himself into the saddle as the creature's roar shattered the silence. He spurred the horse hard, the desert stretching endlessly ahead, chasing his soul across the barren plains. And in the wind, beneath the echo of his galloping heart, he could still hear her voice, faint, broken, and filled with sorrow.